Hi, I'm Mary, the godmother behind GoodyGodmother.com, and welcome to Cakes in Space! Alright, kidding. We're going to make a space-themed smash cake today. There are several different ways to make galaxy cakes or space-themed cakes. The method I'm going to show you today relies on buttercream. It's very easy. You don't have to make any kind of fancy glaze. You don't have to have any special equipment. Just a couple different colors and a straight edge. So let me talk a little bit about what you'll need before we get started, because you'll see the process is really quick, which is awesome. So today we are going to work with 4 different colors. Depending on the colors you'd like for your galaxy, you can customize this, but you're going to want a mix of light and dark to create kind of that Milky Way sort of look. So I am working with a deep navy blue, white, a little bit of purple, and black. These are all a Swiss meringue buttercream, which means it's a not crusting buttercream. I do like to use that for smash cake shoots because it doesn't have a chance to harden before the baby gets to it, and it's got a nice room temperature soft feel, so you get those really pretty messy type pictures. You will want to, if you're the cake decorator or the parent that's looking to make the cake, you are going to want to talk to the photographer, because some photographers prefer the crusting buttercream depending on their shooting surface. So talk to them before you get started. But today we are using Swiss meringue. And let's just chat for a minute about this black buttercream, because anyone who's ever tried to make black buttercream knows that it is very challenging. So the way I made this black buttercream was to actually make a chocolate buttercream, and then so it's got a little melted chocolate in there, and then I added some black cocoa powder. So as you can see, this is pretty dark. The only place I have seen black cocoa powder has been online, so you're going to want to plan ahead and have time to get it shipped into you, unless you live someplace that has some really specialty stores. If you're in a pinch though, the Hershey's super dark cocoa or any super dark Dutch cocoa will also work. You might just have to use a little more of the black gel food coloring. You're going to need to use gel food coloring anyway, because you need something a little more concentrated. Now, the reason why we use a chocolate buttercream as a base as opposed to just a vanilla buttercream and adding the black gel is that for the amount of black gel you will need to really get a rich black, you're going to dye everyone's mouth black. There's just no way around it. So to avoid that, we use chocolate as a base, and then no one's teeth end up dyed black. Hooray! Because you only have to use, I think to get this rich black, I used maybe about 4 drops of black gel food coloring. So that's good. Now, you're also going to want to if you're using these dark colors, you're also going to want to let your buttercream colors develop for at least 30 minutes up to overnight, because gel food coloring, after you use it to color anything, whether it's fondant or any kind of frosting, it will darken in color after a couple minutes. So if you are looking to match a color and you want a specific shade, you're going to want to go a little lighter, then wait about 30 minutes and check again. I let this develop overnight, and then this morning I added a little more black cocoa powder to it just to make the black a little richer, and just in the maybe 20 minutes that it's been sitting waiting for me to set up the shoot, it got darker, and so now we have a nice black here, so it'll work really well for our cake. So let's get started, and I'm going to start with my already crumb coated cake. You can tell this is not a perfect crumb coat. You don't really have to have a perfect crumb coat for this particular method because using this method, you're going to need to slather on a good amount of frosting. So you're going to kind of cover any little imperfections, which is great. But once you commit to colors, you can't go back over and over and over again, or you'll end up smudging your design. You'll see what I mean in just a second. And I'm going to pull the camera in closer so you can watch me work while I talk through it. And I'm just trying to make sure that we cover all the points in advance. As far as tools go, you will need a turntable for this. There's no way around it. You have to be able to smoothly rotate your cake to get a nice finish. You will need an offset spatula. If you don't have one, you can also use piping bags and put your frosting in piping bags. And you will need some sort of a straight edge. This is a bench scraper. I recommend using one that is taller than your cake. So this is taller than my cake, and as you can see, it sits nice and flush against my cake decorating table, comes right up to the edge of my cake. And this gap right here between the cake board and the cake side and the bench scraper, that's all going to be filled with frosting. So you can see I'm going to be pretty generous with this. And that's it. So let's get started. To create the Galaxy Swirl look, I'm going to spread my frosting all over the cake in just different sections, different colors. I'm going to kind of smear it on. The thing about the Galaxy Swirl is that you really want, this is a little messy, so just go with it. The thing about the Galaxy Swirl is that you want a bit of a random assortment of colors. I'm working with a chilled cake. This cake was chilled overnight, so you really want something nice and hard. Go. And right now my black is kind of showing up as my primary color, but we're going to add more. Let's add some blue here. Don't be afraid to get really thick with this frosting. It's all going to smooth out. What you don't want to do is end up with gaps in the side of the cake, so you need to make sure that your frosting extends beyond the edge of your cake board. So really get in there, because if you have spaces where your frosting kind of indents and doesn't go out past the cake board, when you scrape, you're going to end up with gaps in your frosting, and you don't really have much flexibility with this particular design to keep going over and over and over with your bench scraper, or you will lose a lot of the detailing, and we don't want to do that. There we go. I'm going to add some white right there. And so I'm just going to finish up this cake, and then we will do our scrape and our grand reveal of the design. If you need to, as you work, clean off your spatula. So now we're back, and you can see this looks like a strange shed curving, which is fine. Now we're going to take our bench scraper, elbow in, come right up to the side of the cake, hold your scraper at about 45 degrees, and Okay, one thing I forgot to mention is when working with a smaller cake, sometimes, and I forgot my own advice, you don't want the cake to slip on the turntable. So a little piece of like non-stick grippy stuff is your best friend right here. Boop. Don't try this at home, kids. Learn from my mistakes. All right, well, clean. Let's get back to work. And I can already see, you can see where there's a little gap there. I didn't put enough frosting, but we'll see what we can pull around. All right. Work in sections. You don't want to overload your spatula. So I need to fill in a couple little holes, so I'm going to just kind of go around the cake, see where it needs a little work, and this is a good time where I can also check the balance of my colors. So if I want a little more light color or dark color or whatever in a certain spot, like this spot didn't have enough blue for my liking. So I'm just going to add a little bit of blue. Here. A little more black there to keep it from getting too heavy in the blue section. Doo-doo-doo. Like there. I'm making sure that I'm kind of holding this straight up and down. I don't want it to, I don't want to lean in. So this is looking pretty good. And you can see where you can't go over this cake too many times or you're going to end up losing the design. So I have gone over this just about as many times as I can, and you can see right here we've got a bit of a swirl design. Now I'm going to take this and cover the top using basically the same technique, but first I am going to chill the sides slightly so that I don't mess up my sides while I work on my top. Okay, so now I've let my cake chill about 10 minutes. And the sides aren't super hard or anything, but it gives me a little flexibility to work up top. So I'm just going to do basically the same thing I did on the sides. Add some frosting kind of all around. Here in the different colors. White in there. Blue. And right. And now for this, I'm just going to clean off my offset spatula, kind of place it in the center of the cake, and then just rotate my turntable. When I see it's getting too full, scrape it off. And you go. Basically, I'm just kind of smearing my frosting around a little bit to create the look I want, and I need a little more light colored frosting, the white good. There we go. All right. So I can't touch this anymore. I can't touch this anymore. Actually, yes I can. Haha. I'm going to add a little more blue here and a little more white here. And then I'm going to take my bench scraper and go across the top one way, wipe, and across the top the other way. Okay. Cool. Now I'm going to chill this, and then I'm going to trim up my edges, and then we're going to add some embellishments. So now we have our cake, and I've gone ahead and chilled it a bit. It's not completely hard, but about 20 minutes to where it's a pretty firm cake. And I transferred it onto a covered cake board. I covered this cake board last night with some fondant and let it dry overnight. Now, the reason why I recommend putting smash cakes that you do not intend to deliver yourself as the cake maker to the photographer and place on set on a larger cake board is because this makes it much easier for parents to pick up and place, or the photographer. Remember, when you are putting this cake out for the child at the smash cake shoot, you want this to be soft, so you're not putting a firm cake on whatever pedestal or display space they're using on set. So sometimes it's really helpful to create a wider base so it's easy for parents to transfer and the photographer, and they don't have to worry about messing up any portion of the cake. A lot of the time, you'll have smash cakes that end up with a 360-degree view just because the photographer's moving around, especially if the shoot's outdoors and the baby's kind of crawling around the cake on a blanket. So you don't have to do this if you're making this at home and you're making it right on the cake plate that you're going to use at the shoot. You don't have to use a larger cake board underneath your cake board, but I'm just expressing this as an option to make sure that you know that there are some alternatives available. So now we're going to make, you see we have a bit of marbling and the black has gotten all nice and black and it looks very spacey. There's a little texture to this and I kind of like it that way. I purposely did not smooth it out. I think it adds a little bit of depth and it's going to look really good when we take photos. But to add that kind of galaxy look, especially with buttercream cake, you want to add a few little details. So today we're going to add details using a little bit of pearl dust, and we're going to thin that out with a bit of vodka. You can also use Everclear or lemon extract. And we are going to use a dry bristle brush. This is a food-only brush. Basically any artist brush that you don't use for anything other than food. It's a food brush. And we're going to kind of spray it on in just a few areas. In this case, less is more. We don't want to go overboard or it's just going to look like a spray painted cake and have less of that galaxy look. We are also going to add 1 or 2 pumps of this edible glitter spray, which again is like a luster dust. This isn't the spray paint. It's more of a dry spray, as I found out when I accidentally opened the entire bottle across my counter. But we're going to add maybe 1 or 2 pumps here or there, again, just to kind of give that very light hand. And I'm on the fence about this, to be honest. We are going to use it only if I don't think that this has added enough. And then we are going to add a few stars. I have silver and gold, and these edible star sprinkles you can find at pretty much any craft store. So again, nothing here other than the black cocoa powder really needs to be ordered offline. It's all very easy to find and pretty easy to put together. So let's start by making our little splatter paste. So I'm going to put a little bit of my dust here on this plate. And I'm going to add just a drop. If you have an eyedropper, a little pipette works really well too. And then I'm just going to kind of mix this together on the plate. So what I'm looking for is actually pretty thick. So this looks good, but I don't want any dry bits, so I'm going to thin it out just a little bit because any dry dust will transfer onto your cake. So I don't want it too runny, but I don't want it too thick either. And I can already see this is perfect because as I've been mixing, it's kind of been splattering a little because this is a really coarse bristle brush. And so we've got a really nice look going. So again, I'm going to give it just a quick practice here on my plate. So thumb here and just, yeah, okay, we're in business. So we're going to start here on the side of the cake. And I'm doing this on my cake board because I actually do want some of the splatter to show up on the cake board to kind of bring this together as a unit. It's just as important because the cake board will be appearing in pictures. It's just as important that the cake board look nice as the cake look nice. So here and all right, and then we're gonna go across the top, and I'm gonna get a little closer for this one, and maybe down here from kind of further away. And we're gonna do one more over here, really up close. There we go. And all right. So we have a good look here. And see, doesn't it look beautiful? So it's not too much. As you can see, if I had gone a little crazy and just kept going, it would look less galaxy and more all over splatter paint. So we're not going to do that. And I really dig where this is right here. So I do not want to add any of this today. Let me see if I can, here, I'm just going to place these here and I'll do a quick spray here on the plate just so you can see what it would look like. So see, it's just a fine dust. It doesn't add too much. I just don't see where it really fits for me in this cake here. I think with the splatter, we did good. And so I want to leave it. I don't think, so if you want to use the sparkle shimmer spray, I would actually, you're going to have to get kind of heavy-handed to get this same white splatter look. So I might recommend using the spray paint instead if you can find it. But the dry paintbrush splatter will give you the absolute best effect. So now, let's stick to silver. So let's add the silver stars, because I don't know, not really feeling the gold today for the stars. So let's do silver. I'm just going to sprinkle some out. Now I could sprinkle these on by hand, but I'm not sure how heavy I want to be, so I'm going to use a paintbrush to kind of place them. I could use tweezers too, but this dry paintbrush is actually picking up pretty well. And if it needed to be wet a little bit, I would just use kind of the remnants of our splatter paint here, because silver, it's not going to show and it just acts as a little glue, but these are very fine and so they're very easy to pick up, and I'm not traveling too far with them. So I'm going to bring in the camera, let you kind of watch me put this together, and there you go. That is the easy way to make a buttercream space themed smash cake. I hope you've enjoyed this tutorial. Hop over to the blog for the really cute story behind how this smash cake came to be, and a few more tips, tricks, as well as links to all of the products that I have used, so that if you need to order anything offline, you can get that easily. Thank you so much, and I will see you next time.